In a very competitive compact crossover market under $40,000, the Chevrolet Equinox traditionally has found itself in the middle of the pack, which isn't too bad for a vehicle like the Equinox because Chevrolet focuses on their larger SUVs with the Traverse, the Tahoe, and then of course their pickup trucks. That's where they're at their best, that's their bread and butter. But now that Chevrolet is dropping the Malibu, so there's no longer a car in the lineup, buyers are looking for an affordable, practical, and family-friendly option that isn't going to break the bank. And you now have that with the all-new 2025 Chevrolet Equinox. This is a new generation, new platform, giving us some new technology and also new looks. In today's video, we're going to check out the LT trim, see what it's offering here under $40,000, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a vehicle right now that is going to be practical, family-friendly, and spacious, maybe taking a look at the all-new Chevrolet Equinox might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Copeland Chevrolet here in Hudson, Massachusetts for inviting me out here to check out the Chevrolet Equinox. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Chevrolet inventory. So as always, let's begin with pricing. For 2025 with the Chevrolet Equinox LT, you're looking at a starting cost of just under $32,000 with all-wheel drive equipped. Now, all-wheel drive does throw in $2,000 to that price tag, but I think it's most certainly worth it because with the front-wheel drive version, you get the CVT. We're going to talk about this later on in the video. Now, also in regards to that pricing, typically for most manufacturers, when you go from one generation to the next, there's a price hike. That isn't the case for the Equinox. In fact, at $32,000, this is a bit more affordable than the LT last year at this time, and you receive a lot more standard equipment here that makes a world of a difference. But let's start off with the exterior for the Equinox, because it does take a lot of styling elements from the Chevrolet Trax and Blazer, and does look like a baby Traverse now, which definitely gives this vehicle a more rugged appeal and aesthetic, and also, of course, because it is built on a new platform and chassis from GM, it has the boxier elements of a GMC. So what you have here is a vehicle quite different than what you had last year with the 2024 Equinox. So let's start off with the front fascia. Now, having had a lot of experience with the last generation, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to be brutally honest here, and why I think the Equinox was in the middle of the pack in this segment is that its looks and the way it drove, it felt like a fleet vehicle. It looked like a fleet vehicle. And that was compounded by the LS trim, and the LT really didn't provide too much on top of that. But for 2025, with the LT now being your entry point for this model, it's completely different. That's helped out with the full LED headlights and LED fog lights, which is available for this trim through optional packages. But then it also goes one step further with the design, where you have the chrome accents. It looks somewhat like the Blazer too. So you're getting a vehicle that looks sportier, looks aggressive. The cladding has been beefed up for 2025. So now it looks capable. It looks rugged. It buys right into all the trends right now in the compact crossover market. Now you can go with a lower profile appearance with the Midnight Edition, giving you some gloss black trim and also gloss black wheels. Is that necessary? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're just looking for a base LT or just a LT that looks a bit more upscale, you're going to have that here for 2025 now. Then making your way over to the side profile, you are going to have 17-inch alloy wheels. That does come standard for the LT, but you can upgrade to 19s if you so desire. Although I think that with the 17s, you're going to notice that the ride quality is smoother and also there's less road noise as well. That would be the better choice. On higher trims such as the Activ and the RS, you get those 19s. So if you're someone just looking for a comfortable daily driver, you might want to stick with the LT. Also, as I talked about before, with the front fascia, you notice the cladding again, beefed up, and that's why with that boxier shape, kind of reminds me of a GMC Terrain. It definitely has some of those aesthetics here that I think might go a long way for a lot of you if you are someone who does have an active lifestyle. Now, you are going to receive body color side mirror caps, and on top of that, you will have blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, you are going to have full LED taillights here, which takes a similar shape to other vehicles in the lineup, so it looks like that Trax, it looks like that Blazer, and that Traverse. Definitely gives you some of that rugged styling, but also a modern appearance. What I also love too is this gloss black trim for the final third of this model that kind of blends right in with the windows. Love that touch. You don't typically find that for a vehicle at around $30,000. Now for the lower portion of the rear bumper, you're going to have that cladding once again, but no visible exhaust outlets. So I have a feeling that Chevrolet has something hiding up their sleeves. I have a feeling that they are going to give you a hybrid trim at some point down the road. That would make this vehicle very competitive with the CR-V and Toyota RAV4, but who knows. But one thing I do like though is that the rear fascia does look rather clean and actually just ties everything together here, where this vehicle is going to have that more rugged aesthetic and appearance. Taking a peek under the hood for our Chevrolet Equinox we have today, we have a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which does carry over from last generation, producing 175 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, since our model does have all-wheel drive. If you were to go with front-wheel drive, not only are you going to notice a decrease in performance, you're also going to get that CVT. So I think right off the bat, you're going to want to go with that all-wheel drive system for that better performance and also for that better year-round capability and versatility. Now, one thing I want to point out here with the Chevrolet Equinox is that even though it does look more rugged and capable than it did before, you still only have about 7.6 inches of ground clearance, which is more than enough for snow-covered roadways. But you're not going to be taking this off-road, although the Activ does come with all-terrain tires, so keep that in mind. In regards to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 24 miles per gallon in the city and 29 miles per gallon on the highway. Not the best in this segment, but not the worst, and falls right in line with most competitors in this segment. Hopping inside the Chevrolet Equinox LT we have today, we do have some optional packages and features equipped for this model that elevates the driving experience and ownership experience for the LT. In fact, I think Chevrolet went a bit too far here with the packages, where I don't think it's necessary to go with the Activ or RS, although there are some unique features for those two trims that might make it worth it at $40 grand. So let's dive right into these packages. So standard is the convenience package, giving you remote start, heated front seats, and a heated steering wheel. But for $2,200, which is equipped on our model, the Convenience Package 2 gives us an 8-way power adjustable driver's seat with 2-way lumbar support, dual zone climate control, also a wireless phone charging pad, and we do get a dual pane sunroof, bringing in a lot of natural light to the interior, and of course, give you more of that upscale driving environment that you want to have here at around $36,000. Now, with this package, you also receive the new Evo Tex upholstery, which is a nice upgrade over the cloth seats. Now, for a vehicle at around $36,000, you're not going to receive aggressive bolsters. This is not going to be a sports crossover, although these seats are plush, supportive, and very comfortable. Falls right in line with other vehicles at this price point and in its segment. Now, as to be expected for a vehicle that does wear the LT badge, the passenger side isn't power adjustable, so they will have to manually find their ideal seating position. That isn't too much of a surprise at all. Now, for us, we do have a lot of technology here. Standard is 11-inch digital gauge cluster and the Google-based software, but it does go one step further beyond that. So for $1,085 with a safety and technology package, you are going to receive a digital rear view mirror, an HD surround view camera, traffic sign recognition, and rear pedestrian alert. Through this package, you also receive the front LED fog lights, which we already talked about earlier on when we checked out the exterior. So there really is a lot to work with for this particular trim. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, though, is that what Chevrolet has done to the dashboard layout, the interior materials that they used. There are some soft touch materials on the dashboard and door panels. It gives you a nice plush feel, but then also just the way the dashboard layout is in general. You still have physical buttons and dials for that dual zone climate control, heated front seats, AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, and fan direction. Love to see that, because some manufacturers don't give you that at all, and that is a bit of a surprise for a GM product, because really what we're seeing now is that Chevrolet and others are putting all these features on the touchscreen, which I know a lot of people are complaining about right now. So let's first focus on this digital gauge cluster. The resolution and quality is top notch. I mean, really, for a vehicle at this price point, and for Chevrolet in general, Chevrolet has always fallen behind its closest rivals. I think in the tech department, you would say they would go back and forth with Ford, maybe even Mitsubishi. But now, what you have here is a setup that is very competitive with Volkswagen, with Honda, with Toyota, and I think a lot of you are going to be surprised here. Now, this digital gauge cluster isn't too in-depth. It's not going to be really intuitive here, but compared to what we had last year with the LT for 2024, this is a huge upgrade and a nice upgrade at that. Then quickly taking a look at the infotainment system, you are going to have some Google-based software here with Google Assistant, Google Play Store, Alexa, and also Google Maps. We're seeing a lot more of this from GM, such as what you have with Cadillac, and GM is sharing this across all brands under their umbrella, which does make sense, and I think is a great move because the old GM technology was not competitive. Now, I think a lot of you are going to love this screen, especially for a vehicle at around $30,000 to start. Now, you are going to have quick access icons on the left side of the screen to get your different menus efficiently, such as your Bluetooth, your navigation map, your radio, and then home screen, but then also you can dive into safety systems and vehicle settings, such as your dome light, power window lockout, camera, traction control, auto high beams, front fog lights, and then park assist features. You can go even more in depth on this during your own time and own discretion. On top of all this, you are going to receive a plethora of camera angles through optional packages, such as a rear backup camera with trajectory, a top view camera with trajectory, front-facing camera, and side views for your front tires. So that way, you're not scraping those wheels when you are parking on city streets. So there is a lot of visibility here and gives you a lot of reassurance when you are backing out of tight spots in a garage. Then continuing on for the center console, you will have a USB-C and USB-A outlet, a tray for some smaller items, maybe a couple wallets or smartphones. We have that optional wireless phone charging pad. Then you're going to have 2 cup holders and more storage for some maybe loose change or a couple pens. Now this is flanked by gloss black trim, typical for a vehicle in this market. For the standard storage compartment, there is plenty of room for smaller items. In fact, you could probably store a couple water bottles or 2, which is a bit of a surprise because for compact crossovers, you don't get that much depth for that center storage compartment. Then to wrap up the front seating area, we have that optional panoramic moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Then for passengers in the back, you actually are going to receive a lot of interior space here. With the Chevrolet Equinox, it's a bit understated to say the least. Because in this market, you think about the RAV4, Volkswagen Tiguan, Hyundai Tucson. But with 39 inches of legroom, this falls right in line with those 3 competitors. Now, there are a few things I think a lot of you are going to love here about this vehicle. One is the higher roofline. Gives you a traditional SUV feel here. Also, if you have taller passengers in the second row, they'll not be hitting their head on the headliner. Now, what is one issue a lot of people do have here with compact crossovers? Well, they're not really versatile in a sense where you can squeeze in a third person. Well, with the Chevrolet Equinox, I think you can, not only with the wider track for this generation, but also there's no center hump, which is a bit of a surprise for a vehicle with all-wheel drive. So I think you can have that third person in the center, and you'll be fighting for that elbow room, which is great to see. Also for our model, just like we talked about earlier on with the front row, is that you are going to have the Evo Tex upholstery here, which gives the Equinox more of an entry-level luxury feel. And I'm not going to say the cloth upholstery makes this vehicle feel cheap in any way, shape, or form, because at $35,000 you kind of expect that. But for a vehicle under 40 grand, this does feel really upscale, which I think a lot of you are definitely going to be drawn to if you are looking at buying an LT. Also back here, you are going to have 2 center-mounted air vents to go along with 2 USB-C inputs. On higher trims, you can go with heated outboard seats, so keep that in mind. And to round out the second row seating area, you are going to receive a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time, take a look at the rear cargo area. For our Chevrolet Equinox LT, we are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the second row of seats, surprisingly, because compared to last generation, this Equinox is about 2 inches wider, but has no effect on interior space. You are going to receive right around 30 cubic feet of room, just like we saw last year, and this falls right in line with the Mazda CX-5 and Nissan Rogue. Now, you'll have plenty of room back here to stack on a lot of items, and if you are going on road trips with the family, practicality is not going to be too much of an issue at all. I'll be able to fit all my camera gear today, no problem. So I have 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And due to the width of the Equinox, there's a lot more room here where I could go grocery shopping afterwards or go on that road trip to the mountain areas to ski and snowboard. Now, with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 63.5 cubic feet of room, identical to last generation. So there's enough room here as a daily driver, as a commuter vehicle, and also for that road trip car that you're looking for you and your family. Better yet, though, with the Chevrolet Equinox LT, you are going to receive a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Because Chevrolet dropped in the exact same engine from last generation, performance isn't going to be a key takeaway here for this vehicle. In fact, I think we already gone over that with the interior quality, the digital gauge cluster, the Android-based software here for the head unit, and then also the creature comforts, amenities, and optional packages. I personally think that what Chevrolet has done here for 2025 is make the Equinox LT the best trim right now, especially for a starting price under 30 grand. I don't think you have to go with the Activ or RS necessarily. However, Chevrolet did change out the transmission, so you now have an 8-speed automatic transmission paired with this 1.5-liter turbo. And it does make the Equinox feel a bit more responsive. It's still not sporty, it's still not aggressive, it's not spry. However, this 8-speed is rather smooth. Now, uncharacteristic for an American manufacturer, the steering is decently weighted here. You have a very beefy steering wheel too, with aggressive 9 and 3 position, which isn't something you typically find in this market. Now, also another thing too is that with the 17-inch alloy wheels that we have here for this model, ride quality is pretty good. That's probably because of the retuned suspension and chassis. It feels very well refined and has a nice demeanor on the roadways. Also another thing too, with the weight to the steering, you do have some sense of connectivity. Now, unfortunately though, you're still going to have some of that body roll. This isn't a sports crossover, so keep all of that in mind, temper your expectations. However, considering where we were last year at this time, what you have here with the LT is something completely different. With the Chevrolet Equinox being one of the first vehicles I ever featured on this channel, I think 7 years ago, last generation felt more like a fleet vehicle. It really did. And the LT now truly feels like a CR-V RAV4 Volkswagen Tiguan fighter. And this is a huge leap for the brand, especially in a competitive market such as this. I think the Equinox for 2025 is going to be a hit with a lot of buyers. Also, another thing too is that even though they haven't changed up the dimensions of this crossover too much, you still have the decent amount of practicality and also a lot of interior space as well. So it is family friendly, it is conducive as a daily driver. It's just that with all those extra packages and amenities, now what you have here is an entry-level luxury crossover under $40,000, which is why I don't think you have to go with that Activ or RS. Also, of course, with the RS being that sportier trim, you don't get a different engine. So I think save a few $1,000s, go with the LT. Now, in regards to the overall vision being behind the wheel of this crossover, I do like the seat positioning here. This feels like a traditional SUV, and you see that with the design. It has that boxier, more rugged appeal to it, which we didn't have last year at this time. You have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are somewhat thin, so I don't think you'll have any blind spots or any issues when we are approaching intersections or red lights. The side mirrors are decently sized. I can see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, nice clear view here. Even though the headrests are in the way, if there is a third person in the center, that might be a bit of an issue, although you have that digital rear view mirror, which is optional for the LT. Great to see, by the way, at this price point and in its segment. Also, I do recommend going with the Evo Tex material for these seats. They're plush, they're comfortable. As I talked about before, the bolstering isn't too aggressive, so you will be swaying around a bit here. Also, with a lack of a sports tuned suspension, you are going to notice that body roll. So again, this is not going to be a fast or sporty or athletic vehicle, but it does feel very much like other crossovers at this price point. All in all though, with this 1.5, it's actually rather quiet and docile. You know, I was expecting this to be a bit louder, and interior insulation isn't too bad, and that's one of the reasons why you're going to want to go with the 17s over the 19s that are available for this particular trim. But interior insulation is pretty good and very much on par with other crossovers I have featured in this segment. Also, for the suspension, goes over the bumps and imperfections quite well. I'm not getting abused here on these New England roads, and that's really all you could ask for. I will say though that there is a floaty sensation, and that's to be expected, but that also reflects just how smooth and comfortable the suspension really is. But honestly though, as a daily driver, as a vehicle that you might not have put at the top of your list of considerations, this is a huge leap forward. I mean, a profound leap forward that I'm a bit surprised, to be honest, considering that Chevrolet is focusing on their EV products. The fact they have given us this right now, halfway through this decade, pretty impressive. So to wrap up this quick test drive, compared to where we were last year with the 2024 LT, this is a completely opposite experience. It truly is. The LT not only felt a bit more bass-like, because again, you had the older GM software, you had the cloth material for the seats, you couldn't upgrade that for the LT, and also, of course, with the LS still being in existence, the LT couldn't be a all-in-one great package like it is now. I do think, though, that there is a bit of redundancy, because why would you go with the RS when you could go with an LT? Sure, with the RS, you get ventilated seats as an option, you get some other features such as a drive mode selector, but if you're on that stricter budget, you want to spend under $40,000, the LT is really all you could ever ask for and need. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review of the Chevrolet Equinox LT. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.